going to be talking about GoOpen NC and how you can get started using GoOpen NC to find content and materials for the 2020-2021 school year. This is Pam Batchelor with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction on the home base team. If you would like to follow along with us on today's presentation, please feel free to go to the bit.ly that's listed at the bottom of the screen. bit.ly/launch GoOpen NC web. Again, you'll put that bit.ly into your URL browser of your internet browser and it will launch. So today is the first video of a two-part series where we're going to talk about how you can get started with GoOpen NC for the new school year. So we're going to start with just a brief introduction to what GoOpen NC is. If you are completely new to GoOpen NC, it is our North Carolina OER initiative, or Open Educational Resources. And some of our goals for our microsite is that we wanted a place where standards-aligned resources as well as collaboration and partnerships could all kind of come together as educators create resources, remix resources to personalize learning and meet the needs of their individual students, and also develop a place of OER community of practice where it really becomes second nature for us to share resources and to learn and remix from others. So just a note before we go into the platform about what is OER. So OER materials could include anything from a full course all the way down to an assessment or a simulation. So with our GoOpen NC microsite, you will find standards-aligned supplemental resources. It's not meant to be a full curriculum for your class, but we do have textbooks, lesson plans, instructional units, videos, lots of labs and simulations. There's some assessments, different websites that you can go to, and of course lots of lesson plans. So the most important thing about OER that should matter to you is that with an open education resource, you are free to retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. So I think a lot of us are familiar with resources that may be free, that are posted online, but they may not really be OER because they're just free to access, right? So if I get a lesson plan online, there's a lot of great free resources out there, but it's really just meant for me to use as is. Whereas with OER, we have these licensing built in where I know that this resource is going to continue to be free, right? I have that retain, right? Because sometimes we have things that, may be free right now, but then next year when we go and look, it's no longer free. So we also have the ability to, with different levels of Creative Commons licenses that we'll get to in just a minute, where I can also take a resource and maybe remix it, right? Or maybe I need to revise it. Maybe it's currently a PowerPoint slides, and instead of a PowerPoint slides, I want to take that resource and make it into a hyperdoc. All right, we have those abilities with OER. So that's why, some of the reasons why it's important to consider looking for open educational resources just versus things that are free on the web. And so speaking of those Creative Commons licenses, we're going to take just a minute to go over them because this is a really big part of our platform that you'll see on GoOpen NC is that we have the Creative Commons license system built in, right? So these licenses tell me as a user exactly what I can and can't do with a resource. So everything that you create, whether you are, creating a lesson plan, whether you're creating an instructional unit, whether you're creating a PowerPoint game for your students to play to review, you have the right as the creator of that work to apply a Creative Commons license to it, right? And so that Creative Commons license would tell me exactly what I can do with this work without having to contact you and say, hey, I noticed you had a great lesson plan on, rocks and minerals. Can I, can I have access to it and reuse it with my students? Well, if it's got a Creative Commons license on it, you already have that freedom. So there's 6 types of licenses. And you'll notice that the little person icon is in all of them, right? So one thing about Creative Commons is giving that attribution, right? And that's what by means. So I'm gonna, if I find a lesson plan online, and I see that, Amy Johnson wrote that lesson plan, then I'm going to go and I'm going to make sure that Amy Johnson has that attribution when I reuse her resource, her lesson plan, right? But then maybe Amy also has what we call share alike, or the SA symbol, which looks kind of like a backwards C, right? So that share alike means that I can revise and remix that resource, but I need to make sure that I share it with a similar license, right? So I need to make sure I make revisions to that, give her attribution, and then I need to make sure I share it with another Creative Commons license. So that way it continues to be a free resource. The next new symbol is NC, which means non-commercial, right? So this resource means that we can use it, remix it, revise it. The only thing we can't do is make money off of it, right? So I couldn't take this resource, remix it, and then put it on Teachers Pay Teachers, because that would be making money off of it, right? So non-commercial means that it's staying, non-commercial. No one's making any money off of it. Then, of course, we have the combination of a buy with NC and share alike, right? So not only can I remix it, revise it, reuse it, I just can't make money off of it, and then I need to make sure I share it alike. This is the license that will keep making sure that that resource is non-commercial and no one uses it for profit, right? And then finally, in our fifth lesson type here, we have a new symbol, and this is ND, which means no derivatives. So ND means that you can't make changes to the content, all right? So you can certainly retain it. It's going to be continue to be available as a free resource, open education resource. You can change the medium of it. So maybe if it's a video and I want to use the audio transcript of it, that's perfectly fine, because I'm not changing the content. I'm just changing the formatting of it. And I can certainly, share it, link it. The only thing I can't do is make changes to it. And, there might be a very good reason. We have, you'll see a few non-derivative licensed materials in our, in GoOpen NC, and those are there for a reason. We have some math lessons that are supposed to be taught in a very sequential order. And they didn't want that content changed. So they felt very strongly about the content and the order that it must be taught. So they used the no derivative license on it, because they didn't want, there's a science behind the methods and the lessons, and they didn't want them taught any differently. All right, so that's a quick recap of Creative Commons licenses, and I guarantee now that you've seen these symbols, you will start to see them anywhere and everywhere. And if you want to learn more about it, I do have a link here to Creative Commons. I encourage you to go and look at it. They even have Creative Commons has a course that you can take where you can learn more. And so feel free to, dive in. But I just wanted to give you a brief overview, because you will see these Creative Commons licenses on a lot of our work in GoOpen NC. All right. So what are some of the things that you can do on our microsite? Of course, you can search for materials. You can curate my materials by creating folders, saving resources to those folders. Of course, you can create new lesson plans and materials. One of our goals is also that robust repository, having enough content in there to get you started. Of course, that repository is going to keep growing, we hope, as you learn about GoOpen NC and start to share resources and materials, which will be our second video, where we'll talk about how you can add to GoOpen NC. Of course, we want a space where we can have professional learning. You'll notice that not only do we have teaching standards in GoOpen NC, but we also have our DLC standards for teachers and administrators or digital learning competencies, as well as professional teaching standards. So you can definitely share professional learning materials on GoOpen NC. And then we wanted to build that community of practice where it's really encouraged and okay to share, because we know sometimes when we think about sharing, it might make us feel a little funny or a little nervous, not sure if our resources are good enough to share. But I encourage you to rethink that and to recognize that, yes, you definitely have things that you can share and that would be valuable to others. Because even if it's not 100% what someone's looking for, it could be 80%. And then with OER, it's easy to put a Creative Commons license on it and someone can remix it to make it 100% of what they're looking for. And so, having that freedom there to not have to start from scratch every time is very appealing. So definitely everyone has something to share. All right, so again, just that idea of that open educational practice. We've talked about collaboration, also the aspect of peer review, right? So we're going to look at GoOpen in just a minute, and we're going to show you different things about how you can leave comments and reviews and ratings on resources to really help inform other educators and what their thoughts should be and how to make things better. And then, of course, just looking at curriculum as an iterative, improvement, right? So how can we always make sure we're continuing to improve and get better each year or each time we teach a certain lesson or unit, reflecting on it, what happened, what went well, what could happen in the future next time around to make sure that lesson goes better, and then sharing those experiences within the platform. All right, so we're getting ready to dive in. I just want to explain very briefly kind of the organization of GoOpen NC. So if we think about our Library of Congress, right, our national library, right, our National Library of OER is called OER Commons, and it is, of course, founded by ISKME, which is the Institute for Study of Knowledge Management and Education. And we in North Carolina have contracted with ISKME to create our own state library, if you will, and we call that GoOpen NC. And within GoOpen NC, we have wings of the library called hubs, right, where they're focused on a specific topic or a certain group. And then we have tables in the library, or kind of like study rooms, which we call groups, which is where educators can come together and say, hey, I'm a 7th grade math teacher. Can I collaborate with some other 7th grade math teachers? And then, of course, we also have collections or a bookshelf, right? Where we have these collections of resources based on topic, as well as just a general search that you can do. So how do I get to GoOpen NC? We're getting ready to dive into the platform. You can either go to GoOpen NC from the website here on the slide, goopennc.oercommons.org. And I also have a link here to oercommons.org, that national library. If you're looking for, you want to check that out, you can. The reason why our state library is so important is because it has our state standards in it. When you go to OER Commons, you will see other state standards. You will not see North Carolina's. That's why we have our own microsite. So we have our own standards that we use with the North Carolina Standard Courses Study. GoOpen NC is also on your NC Ed Cloud tray. So you can use single sign-on to go ahead and click on it from your NC Ed Cloud tray and launch GoOpen NC. So I encourage you to do one of those two things right now in a separate tab. Either go opennc.oercommons.org, or if you're already signed into the NC Ed Cloud, you can go and click on the North Carolina icon. So go ahead and do that, and then we're going to start with our tour of GoOpen NC. So we've loaded the platform. When you come to GoOpen NC, if you joined just by typing in the link goopennc.oercommons.org, The first thing I want you to make sure you do is sign in. So up here in the top right corner, you see my picture. If I was not signed in, you would just see a generic avatar, and then you would see the word sign in up here. So always go ahead and make sure that you are signed in, because that's what's going to allow us to save items that we find, as well as join groups in a minute. So just make sure that you have clicked and signed in. If you joined through the NC Ed Cloud, then you're already signed in with thanks to our single sign-on service. So just a note there. From the home page, you can actually see we have a GoOpen NC toolkit here. That's the maroon link in the top left corner. That has a lot of resources about GoOpen NC. So if you want to share the platform with your colleagues, which we hope you do, then you can click on this maroon link and actually go to a Google site that has a lot of presentations and resources that you can use. You'll notice that, of course, in the center of the home page is our search. Across the top is our navigation, where we have Discover, Hubs, Groups, Learn More, Add OER. And then if you scroll on down, you'll see some help videos that we have created to help you. So we have an introduction video about what the platform is, a video about searching by standards, and a video about how to collaborate. So these videos are all very short, 5 minutes around or less. And so we hope that these videos that are on the homepage just help you get a quick overview of the platform and what you can do. So of course we're going to start just by searching for a resource. So of course you can come in here and just do a keyword search. So maybe I'm looking for fractions and click on search. And you'll see we have 880 results for fractions. I don't want to look through that many. So we can go over here by educational standards. And of course, that brings up our North Carolina standards. So I'm going to go down here and look for North Carolina math standards. And then we choose our grade level. So maybe I'm going to go look for 4th grade. And then numbers and operations fractions. And then we can go down to our specific objectives, right? So equivalent fractions. Now I'm just looking at 64 resources. That's getting much better. I can look at these resources and I can continue to drill down over here. I can also sort them by their rating. So maybe I just want to look at the highest rated resources first, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this first resource here, which is actually from the Tools for NC Teachers math resources. So this is a lesson plan that is talking about students work with geoboards to explore the meanings of halves and fourths. All right, and so you can see a little bit about this resource. I can see again that Creative Commons license here. So this one does have that non-commercial share alike. So I can still go and click on that remix button if I wanted to make a copy of it and remix it for my particular students. To view the resource, we're just going to click on View Resource, and that actually will open up what the resource is. So here's a summary. And I can go and click on Download to actually click on the lesson plan. So notice I still have this toolbar across the top of my screen. So let's say that I'm using Google Classroom. If you click on this Google Classroom icon, it will actually ask you to sign in to your Google account, and you'll be able to share this lesson plan right to your Google account. Now, just a key thought about this. When we're talking about sharing resources that we find in GoOpen NC, be thinking about the resource. So would I really share a lesson plan to students? Probably not. But if you do find a resource that is something that would be student friendly, then definitely take the time to share via Google Classroom. We also have an integration with learning management systems, including Canvas, where you can bring in resources into your Canvas course from GoOpen NC. So if there are student-facing things, so this particular one is not really student-facing. This is a lesson plan for a teacher, so I wouldn't share. But there definitely are other things within GoOpen NC that I would. I could also use this little share button, and I can actually share this resource on social media. So maybe I really like this lesson plan and I want to share it on Twitter. You can. You can also click on this save button, which is great because the save button allows me to come back to it, so I can come back in here. You notice I have lots of folders, and as well as I have lots of groups. So don't worry if you don't see these things right now, you can get them. If I wanted to go ahead and create a new folder right here to save this work in, I could. So maybe this is my 4th grade math folder. 4th grade math, I'll just call it that. All right, and so now I see 4th grade math, and this item has been saved, right? So now I can go back under my items, and I think I just saved it twice, and it's there for me to come back to later on. You'll also notice this little report flag that is on every resource in GoOpen NC. So we all know the Internet of Things. Internet is great, but sometimes lessons or links break, or maybe something gets misaligned. If it does, just click on that report button and let us know, and that sends in a help ticket right to us to let us know to check the resource in case maybe a link got broken, or maybe a standard got misaligned somehow. Let us know and we can go in and look at it. All right, so I'm going to go back and do the search again. We're going to do something a little different this time. This time I'm going to actually start off searching by standard, right? So maybe I know exactly what standard I'm looking for. So I'm going to go in for English Language Arts. And so you'll notice it doesn't pull down. So you have to click on search, and then it'll start to be able to drill down. And so maybe, this time I'm looking for 7th grade English Language Arts, and maybe I'm looking for informational text. And maybe I'm talking about 7.9, right? And so now I've got my 37 resources, all right? All right, and so can you save the Roman Empire? This looks like a multidisciplinary learning module. And it's problem-based learning. All right, so this one, you'll notice this resource here, I do not have a remix, right? And that is because it is something that has been shared externally. It's an external resource. So if I click on View Resource, you'll notice it opens up. All right, and so this is something that I can not remix because it's an external site, right? But I can still go ahead and use it. And I noticed that it has the Creative Commons license on it, but I just wanted to show you the difference in the lesson types and resource types and things that you can remix and not remix. All right, so we can still save it. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it to one of my folders. I still have the link to share to Google Classroom if this is student facing. I haven't looked at it enough to determine if it is. You can leave a comment on it, and you can see the comments that have been left. You can also see that this is from an evaluation. So over here on the right hand side, we do have a rubric, the North Carolina Quality Review rubric that is built into our microsite, where you can go through and review resources and evaluate them. You can also add tags, so you can see all the tags. And if we clicked on one, it would actually bring up all the resources that have that tag, right? So very easy to use with search. I do want to point out groups before we go over time here with our Getting Started series. So if I go to my groups feature at the top, this is where I can connect with other educators. And if I go to groups and see all groups, you can see we have groups already created for pretty much every grade level and subject area. But you can also go and search. So maybe if I'm looking for, maybe I'm looking for middle school, and here's a 6th grade science group that someone's created. I can go ahead and click join this group, and that'll add me to this group. And then I can go and start looking at, they've already created folders for the different units, and we can go in discussions and see what they have shared in there. So one thing to note is that some groups, when you click on them, if it says request to join versus join, that means it's a closed group and you'll have to be approved before you can join the group. So just a note, we do have some groups that are open and they just say join, and then other groups say request, and that means that the admin of the group will have to allow you to join the group before you be officially a member. When you have a group, once you join a group, if there's any resources, so let me just go back and look for fractions again. I can check the box next to it, and you see where it says save now, as well as my folders. I have my groups, right? So I have all the different groups. I'm a member of a lot of groups that I can actually save a resource to. So that's a really nice feature for if you're working within a group to kind of curate resources, maybe for your upcoming units. You can certainly use that save feature and then save it to a group, right? Lastly, if you ever want to get to your items, so I'm going to click on my items here underneath my profile, and I can see all of the things I've saved, right? So I see all my folders. You can have subfolders, right? So I have theater and then theater history. I have math 1, and then I have geometry, okay? So you can make subfolders. You cannot do 3 layers of folders. You can only do 2. So you can have a parent folder and a child folder, no grandchild. And then you can certainly organize things. You can have a resource in multiple folders. So just to let you know, you can add a resource to multiple folders. And then, you know, on your profile, you can go to my groups, my hubs, and then you can also look at your profile settings, right? So we can see your statistics, right? So I've obviously been pretty active and I've got a few badges. There are badges in GoOpen that you can earn. So if that's something that's interested to you, you can also see kind of a user timeline. But just, you know, under account settings, one last thing, under your account settings in my profile, you have your notification preferences. All right. So make sure you take a second to look at your notification preferences, because if you have notified me when someone publishes a remix, or notify me when someone submits or creates OER, then you might have a lot of emails that come in. So just make sure you check your notification preferences if you're one that likes to make sure you monitor how much email. All right. So this has been a quick overview of GoOpen NC. In our next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about evaluations and then also how you can contribute to GoOpen NC. Thank you.